And welcome once again, one and all, to another episode of Empower Volusia and Common Sense. My name is Jason Davis, and this is Common Sense, and we're coming to you from an undisclosed location, hidden somewhere in the West Volusia Highlands in an iron bunker. And we are guarded, of course, by 2 rabid Pomeranians and 1 crazy cat. That's right. So, what do we hear about today? Well, today is an unusual day. And there we go. I had to get a keyboard out from in front of me here. It's a little hard to maneuver around when you got a keyboard in front of you. Anyways, well, what's going on? What's going on here? Well, here we go.
There you go again.
That's right. There you go again. Because this whole presidential election that's coming up in the very near future in 2020, it's about racism. That's right. It's not about anything more than racism. It's not about the fact that we've got one of the greatest economies that this country has ever had. Ever. It's not the fact that unemployment is at an all-time low. It is not. It's not about the fact that our trade is going wonderful all around the world and that the stock market is hitting all-time highs and that, we are defeating Al-Qaeda and all those guys out there. It's not about that. No, it's not about anything that's important. It's about racism. And that's all this election's about. And, it's really, and the funny part is that the political powers that be, the Democrats that are running their little campaigns right now, they're all vying for your vote. So they're going to say whatever they think that you want to hear so that you, of course, will vote for them. And they'll win through the primary, and then they will be, the next candidate for the Democratic Party to be the president. That's what they want. Well, let's just say this. They're all saying racism. They're saying that Trump is a racist. Well, we've discussed this before. He's not a racist. He's not a white supremacist. He's not anything like that. Let me tell you this. From running a campaign, let me tell you the truth about what happens in campaigns.
You can't handle the truth!
And the truth of the matter is very simply this. When you have a treasurer or staff members that work for you, and they collect money, they don't care where the money came from. They don't, because it's all about making money. You have to raise enough funds to run a campaign. That's right, and that's what it's about, money. And they're going to sit here and say that Mr. Trump took money from white supremacists. Well, I don't think so. But if he did, he didn't know they were white supremacists. He is not the one that's collecting the money. Most candidates don't sit there and say, thank you very much for all your money. They don't do that. They have websites set up where you can make different donations. And there we go. We got my voice up now. I can hear myself talk. They have, websites set up. They have, they have people out there collecting money hand to hand. When you go to a fundraiser, you write a check, and that check goes to whoever's giving you the ticket to get into the fundraisers. And this is not just for Donald Trump, the president. This is for everybody else that's out there also. Everybody's trying to get enough money to run a $1 billion campaign for 1 year. And why is it $1 billion? I mean, I remember when the president used to spend $1 million on a campaign. That was many years ago, before just after the 80s. In the 80s, it was just $1 million to run for office. But now it's like in the billions, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to run for a campaign. And that's only because it costs so much to run a campaign and get the advertisements out. And everybody wants primetime TV commercials and websites and web developers and Facebook watchers and all these other things. You got to pay these people to do this stuff, and it costs money. Now, none of these candidates out there on the Democratic side will tell you that they need the money because they got to pay these people. Most of them are running around saying we're socialists, so everybody should do it for free. And that's what they're hoping. But, let's just be realistic. I don't know of any red-blooded American, man or woman or boy or daughter or Even puppy dog, it'll do anything for free. You got to pay somebody something. See, your dogs don't even protect you. The rabid Pomeranians don't protect me unless I feed them. That's their pay. And people will not collect money and run your campaign unless you pay them money. And that's what they want. So everybody's out there, we got to get all the money. And on a little sidebar about that, that's the funny thing about this Democratic race. You can't get into the debates unless you have X dollars raised and X people who are supporting you. That's right. X and Y has got to equal a lot of money. So you got to have X amount of dollars just to get into the campaign, into the debates. And you have to have Y, so many supporters, endorsements to get into these Democratic debates. So let's be realistic, folks. All these people are running around there talking about socialism. It's really about the money, how much money they can make, how much money they're going to have, how much money they can get. So there we go. But anyways, so just another little quick sound. I love these sound bites. So here's another little sound bite for you because we're going to get right into the meat of the matter.
There you go again.
That's right, Ronald Reagan. There you go again. And why are we going there again? Well, because they're sitting there pointing the fingers. And, like my mom always said, in the immortal words of Forrest Gump, that those who speak the loudest are generally the biggest offenders. And that's true. Even law enforcement says, if you're going to sit here and sing the praises of this person, that person, this, oh my gosh, they're going to look at you a little harder because you're probably the biggest offender. That's right. So let's start this all out. Here we go. What is racism? And this is from the dictionary, a dictionary definition: the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as an inferior or superior to another race or races. And that is the theories of racism. In other words, you are being judged by the color of your skin, the color, the way your eyes are set, whether you're a man or a woman. You are being judged every single day. And believe it or not, 90% of the people in this country have some sort of predetermination as to race and whether you are worth their time or effort or not. And that's what that is. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So here, let's start off with the first racist of the Democrat. See, here's the other thing. The Democratic Party, although they want to argue this, was actually founded by the white supremacists, and organizations that were very racist. They created the Jim Crow laws because after the Civil War, matter of fact, a good chunk of the Congress and Senate were Democrats, and they were the ones that created the Jim Crow laws, especially in the southern states, which were highly Democratic. So the Jim Crow laws, which are laws that held down the African Americans and the slaves after they were released from bondage, they were held down by these stupid little laws. Like one of the laws was you couldn't vote unless you owned land. That was a law. You couldn't own land if you did not make X dollars because the property was so expensive. That's a Jim Crow law. How about this one for a Jim Crow law? The one that everybody doesn't really think about is a Jim Crow law, but these are Jim Crow laws. The segregation of water fountains. All the way up into the 30s, and I do believe into the 50s, 1950s, there were colored and white only water fountains and bathrooms. And Miss Parks had to ride in the back of the bus. We all remember that. The bus segregation. If you were African American, blacks, you had to ride in the back of the bus. You couldn't sit up front. Jim Crow law. And if you did, and these were laws, that if you violated these laws, then you could be arrested. The great sit-in at the diner, and I think that was in Detroit. I don't remember where that is. I might have to look that up so I can get my facts straight on this one. But let me look it up here. And while I look it up, I'll tell you about other ones. There were white-only diners. Where, there we are, diners sit in. We're going to type it on the internet because, of course, the internet would say it, and it's got to be true, right? It was Greensboro. Where was it? It was in Greensboro. Now there's several Greensboros. Come on. North Carolina. In 1960, several blacks sat in a whites-only diner, and they just sat at the counter and they wouldn't do anything. Right? So it was called the Greensboro Sit-In, and that's what they did. The internet is such a wonderful thing for us. But anyways. But the Democratic Party doesn't want to let you know that they created all these Jim Crow laws and that they created the segregation and that they fought against people going to school. University of Ohio blacks could not go to college, and they did everything they could. See, the liberals still run a lot of these colleges, and they do keep the African American population down in these colleges. And how and why? Well, they're very racist, number one, and they won't let you know it. But number two, the way they keep it down is they keep the prices up. So that way, and that's segregation by finance. And that's not only just against African Americans. That's against everybody. If you don't make enough money or willing to go into debt for the next 25 years of your life to get a college education, you can't go to Harvard or Yale or University of Florida, or where they just price it out of they just price it way out there for you, so you can't do it. But you may say, but wait, there are African Americans in these colleges. Yes, they get scholarships, full-blown scholarships, because they can take a basketball and shoot it into a peach basket, or they can run a football faster than anybody else, and they get full-blown scholarships. Now, whites do too. Caucasian people get it, but that's how we get in there. That's how you get into college, with a full-blown scholarship, and that's how you get there. If you don't have the money to go to these colleges. So anyways, let's start off with the first racist. And this is I was just amazed when the ex-vice president of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden, made this statement. I almost fell out of my chair in the iron bunker. I said, he said what? Here, you be the judge, not me. That's what I said. I said, I can't believe he just said what he said. You be the judge as to whether this is or is not a racist statement.
And the other thing we should do is we should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it.
Did you hear that? He knew he made a faux pas, and he tried to back it up, but almost everybody heard it. So listen to that little part there again. Listen to where he tries to back up.
You cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy.
Did you hear the wealthy kids? That was the biggest racist statement I've heard. So anyway, here we go. You want to start pointing the finger about racism? Here we are. Now here's another person who's, and believe it or not, remember the definition I read? In the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics or abilities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Well, how about Mr. Cory Booker? He was doing a press conference, and I want to get into something a little bit later on that. But here's Mr. Cory Booker. Listen. Oh, my goodness. He just tries so hard to throw the race card out. But you know what? We'll explain here. Listen.
Look, this is one of those times where we're not staring at the truth and calling it out. And this is a case for the Democratic Party. The truth will set us free. We lost the state of Michigan because everybody from Republicans to Russians were targeting the suppression of African American voters. We need to say that.
Need to say that. Well, you just did, and hate to tell you this, folks, it's a lie. Believe it or not, there are more African Americans, blacks, if you will, in the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. Number one, they're a very large voting bloc in this nation, and let's be realistic. We get out there to push for the vote. We want everybody to go out and vote. You need to vote. It is one of your most sacred rights. If you don't vote, then you don't have a voice. And I've told many, many people, if you didn't vote, I don't even want to talk to you because you're a hypocrite. But here he is. He's still harping on the old Democratic line. The Russians, Republicans and Russians were trying to hold down the black vote. Here you go. Listen to it again.
And calling it out. And this is a case for the Democratic Party. The truth will set us free. We lost the state of Michigan because everybody from Republicans to Russians were targeting the suppression of African American voters.
Okay, let's talk about repression of voters. During Obama's second, and this is fact, during Obama's second election, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, every voting precinct in the city of Philadelphia, every voting precinct had this military, paramilitary, whatever you want to call it, gang there at every poll. They were the Black Panthers, and we know that. And they stood there at the gates. And if an African American came up and said, "I'm going to go vote," come on in. But if a white man or woman came up and said, "Well, I'm going to go vote," they just kind of looked at him and said, "You sure you want to vote here?" I mean, they stopped them. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was like 100% voted for Obama out of Philadelphia. I don't think so. There's no way. No way. You could get 100% vote in any district like that. That's ridiculous. And I've been through these, elections. I've gotten 80%, 90%, but I never got 100% vote in any single district. And we got 5 of them here. So here we are still calling Mr. Trump a racist. And here's another racist statement. And now this is after El Paso. And this is after El Paso shooting a couple weekends ago. And, oh, by the way, today's date is 8/13. It's August 13th, 2019. So you know that it was a weekend ago or so. And he was going down to visit some injured people that were in the hospital. That's what the president does. I mean, Obama did it during the hurricanes and during the shootings, all those shootings that he had during his election or during his term, but nobody ever blamed him for it. But it's Donald Trump's fault, not Barack Obama's. Even though Barack Obama was the biggest hate monger, he was pushing for the hate, but that's a story for another day. So here we go. This is a interview with a couple of survivors or family members of survivors, and I'll play the first one first. Now, she is apparently Hispanic, so you got to kind of listen. The audio is kind of so you kind of really have to pay attention. So pay attention to this one, and we'll pause it after her and talk about it.
The whole family said if he wants to go into the room, no, we don't want him on the patient's room, and we respect all our family opinions because of his the way he talked against Mexican, against Hispanics. So we don't want to talk to person that they are are Mexican.
I wish he wouldn't have needed to come.
Okay, well, we'll get to the second one there. So the first one, this lady is sitting here saying how he's, evil or mean or racist against Hispanics or whatever. Let me tell you something, folks. Nobody in our government is racist against or not happy or just disrespectful towards anybody of any nation. I mean, that just goes without saying. I mean, no. What Mr. Trump is trying to do is stop illegal immigration, not immigration. Immigration is good. Come on in. And he said that hundreds of times, but our lamestream media people and the Democrats don't want to hear this. He is against illegal immigration, just like every president before him. The only difference is he's doing something to stop illegal immigration. That's what he's doing. He is not sitting here saying, I don't like Hispanic. No, he doesn't say that. He says, come. Bring us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. Come through the port of entry. Don't come over some farmer's pasture or some cattleman's pasture. Don't do that. You come in through the port of entry. Yes, the process is lengthy, but there are ways to speed it up. Like if you are truly looking for, to be a political asylum or something like that, there are ways to get that done. Now, here's this other guy, and that's what he's about. Now, here's this other gentleman. Let's just listen to his comments.
I wish he wouldn't have needed to come. I think he just came to do a circus. He was the one who brewed up all this hatred against Mexicans. I guess he forgot what he said about El Paso, but he still came over here and do his circus because he wanted, votes? We didn't need them.
Okay. Well, once again, we're going back. He doesn't hate Hispanics. He doesn't hate Mexicans. He hires many of them in his multi-billion-dollar-a-year corporation, so don't give me that garbage. And as far as the circus goes, that's not Mr. Trump making a circus. That is, let's call it what it is. I call everybody out. It's CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC. It's all these guys are making a circus because they know that when they get there, he's going to say something or do something. They'll cut a little snippet. They don't take it. They take it totally out of context. And you're right. He didn't have to go. He didn't have to go down there. But you know what? If he didn't go down there, here's the real fact. CNN would, or NBC or somebody up there would be saying, he hates it. He doesn't care about the people of El Paso, Texas. Well, apparently you can't win if you're an elected official, and I know this for a fact because Mr. Trump and I have the same ailment when it comes to being elected officials. I was beat up every single day in the news, or by my opponents, or actually by some of the people I worked with. Would beat me up. Of course, I didn't care. I'm like Mr. Trump. I just kept trudging forward and trying to get the job done. That's what we do. So, that's the real problem right there. They're trying to make this all about race. This is not what the elections are about, folks. And when you get past all the racism and get past all the BS that the president cannot do, that the Democrats are saying they're going to do. Mr. Biden's going to cure cancer. I don't know why he didn't in the first 34 years in office. Cory Booker's going to do this or that. Everybody's going to do this, bring socialism. We're going to do all this great stuff. We're going to get rid of all guns. We're going to raise taxes 70%, which you better not do that because I'm going to have a little problem with it. But anyways, that's what they're telling you they're going to do. And you know what? They don't have the authority to do it. So when you get through all the rhetoric on the Democrats, and they want to call Trump full of rhetoric. These people are full of rhetoric and BS. When you get through all that and you actually read the Constitution, you know what the president can and cannot do. These people have no idea what they're doing, and they can't get done what they want to get done because the Constitution doesn't allow it. So there you go, folks. So basically, they're all running around having their little Spartacus moments,
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Yeah, it's good old Spartacus. I love these sound bites. Some of them are pretty cool. So there you go, folks. That's the truth about it all. That is really what's going on, and that's the truth about the racism. There is no... The biggest racism are the people who keep calling out everybody and calling them a racist. I was wearing where was I? I was somewhere in DeLand, and I picked up a hat and I said, "Oh, look, a MAGA hat." And I put it on my head. I turned around and looked in the mirror and said, "That doesn't look too bad." And I heard the whispers in the back. What a racist. Folks, I am so far from being a racist, it's not even funny. So don't even try that with me. And that, folks, is the truth. So with that, we're going to let you go. We've kind of run over a couple minutes, but that's all right. Sometimes you just got to get a little bit long in the tooth just to make sure that everybody has the common sense